This is Matt Russell, and welcome to the DailyFX forum.
Hello and welcome to the forum highlights video for November 18th. So just scanning through the forums tonight, I saw a great post here by Brad, 1199. He always has excellent analysis, and one of the things I like, and this will be located directly above this video on the Euro-Dollar thread if you're viewing this video there. It's very even-handed and very objective, and it's simple in terms of the analysis, in terms of things to look for, and that's what I always want to communicate to a lot of traders out there, and especially newer traders. That you know, the trading game is a lot simpler in terms of the analysis itself. The difficult part is kind of managing yourself and managing your own emotions and managing, you know, your individual trading plan. But the analysis, I always shy away from very complicated analysis, because in my opinion, even those random times or rare times, or even, you know, if it's a little more than rare times that your complicated analysis works, it instills a false sense of confidence, and then you apply that to another trade and you get aggressive, and you end up losing more money than you made on the previous trades with the complicated analysis. And so that's why I like this chart here by Brad 911, excuse me, 1199, and some of the things he says here about the daily chart, the uptrend line, and also looking at the monthly chart, and that's a key point here, looking at the monthly chart, and it helps you to kind of get a, you know, obviously a longer term perspective. But in terms of, let's say you are a bear out there and you want to short the euro dollar, and you pull up, you know, the monthly chart and you see that upper Bollinger Band a ways away from the current price action, it might make you think twice in terms of, well, maybe I should wait another 2 weeks, another 3 weeks. You know, maybe, you know, people have been shorting this thing for months. Maybe the top isn't going to be right now. And it's always a very seductive thing to try and catch that top. But I can tell you right now, you know, even if you do, sometimes that's the worst thing that can happen if you catch a major turn. And the reason is because, and let's say you catch a major turn and you make some money on that trade. The problem is you're going to look for that major turn, you know, your next 10 trades. And you know, maybe you're going to hit it once out of those 10 trades, but you're going to have 9 losing trades, and you're going to get aggressive and you're going to lose money. And that's the key point here. And one of the things that he said, bears, I know it's tempting to be shorting, but I warn you to be patient. And if you recall, during the videos, I think this was about 2 weeks ago, one of the forum highlights videos, I did mention a few things, and one of those was this simple support line, and prices have still remained above the line. I mentioned that I'd have a bullish bias, similar to Brad, until this line is broken, and that would be confirmed with a close beneath the level. And then when that happens, call me when that happens, and when that happens, then we might set up a short trade as prices test the opposite side of the previous support line, which might now act as resistance. I also mentioned in that video, Brad was speaking about that 155 area, but at the very least, I like the 152.80 area, which is right here, because I remember as prices were at this level, right about here, and I remember I shorted at very close to the top here with the doji candle as confirmation. I was holding, and I probably covered about here, and I gave back a huge portion of those gains, expecting prices to come back to that 52.80 area, only because I just felt it was a magnet, and I felt that prices would get there eventually. So now actually might be the time that happens. The other issue is that I also mentioned during that video is that this sort of looks like an island gap, and maybe, you know, some traders out there aren't very familiar with what an island gap is, but usually an island gap, you know, and we obviously can't have an island gap in FX because it is a continuous market. But with that being said, you can see these very long candles. There's not a lot of price action in between, so in FX, you kind of got to fudge some of these patterns, and I would call this an island gap. So there's also a good chance that prices could stay beneath that island gap. We can see we had a few penetrations above here on the right-hand side. So with that being said, I would personally wait for a close maybe above that 150 area, maybe a day or two above that area, and then I would get serious about a target of that 152.80 area. It's been my opinion that prices will come up to that area at the very least, and I would say at the very least it will act as short-term resistance, and then obviously possibly prices can, you know, move higher at that point. But that's the area I'm looking for in terms of taking a chance for a short trade as prices are above the support line, which is something that, you know, normally I wouldn't do. But as long as the risk is tight, and that 52.80 area, like, I can use that as a very tight range. Let's say, you know, 20, I can enter that trade with maybe a 50 pip stop, and in my opinion that's worth it, because if it is the turn, you know, there could be several hundred pips, you know, or several thousand pips, if you will, in profit. But obviously, that's what you have to wait for. You have to wait for those, you know, incredibly precise shots, and this would be one of them. And again, I would only give it about 50 pips or so because I'm trading against, you know, against the overall trend. Now, with that being said, if prices do break beneath and then test the line on the opposite side, that's a trade that I might give a little more room, maybe 75 to 100 pips. Again, this is Matt Russell. Thanks. I want to take this opportunity to formally welcome you all to the DailyFX forums. I want to go through the process of how I personally access the forums and how maybe you at home, if you want to access the forums in the future, might do so. The first thing you would do is go to www.dailyfx.com, and that will bring up, obviously, dailyfx.com, and usually there on the upper right hand corner I'll go ahead and click on where it says forum, and that will bring up the first page of the forums. And this view, I personally don't use this view, but this view actually shows you the most recent posts on all the threads within the different sections and a little detail about those posts, so you can read through and see if there's something, you know, catches your interest. But personally, I go ahead and just click on forums and view them in the more traditional sense. Now, these are different threads within the forum. There's a section on education, such as DailyFX course instructor tips, which would be good for newer traders, and then for more advanced traders. And I just want to go ahead, you know, personally, the way I use the forums is I would go through the individual threads, just looking for trade ideas, maybe looking at charts, looking at certain lines that maybe I didn't put up on my chart, but another trader might have put up on their chart. I tend to, you know, shy away from using direct trade recommendations from other forum members, but it helps me to sort of even out my analysis, make sure that I'm seeing things, you know, with the right mind in terms of, you know, I might be missing stuff that other traders can see, and that's, you know, my personal way of using the forum. You know, every trader is going to be a little bit different in how they use it. So if you want to ask questions, if you want to become an active participant of the members, you would have to go ahead and register. So that's what I'm going to go through now, is the registration process. So assuming you're brand new to the forums, or maybe you've been here a few times and you're not really sure how it works, so I just want to walk through again the registration process. This would be the front page where you would access, or the previous page. You'd have the same little box here on the left hand side. My username and password are already filled out here, but assuming you're a new member, you would click on where it says register, and that will bring up the registration page. If you give me one moment here while my browser loads. And actually first we're going to have some terms of service and DailyFX forum rules. I do suggest reading through the forum rules. Obviously, you know, profanity and spam and things like that are not allowed, but it also gives you insight on, you know, how to use the forum and how different traders can use it, you know, in terms of their individual needs. So you would go down to the bottom there, you'd click on where it says I have read all the rules, and then you would go ahead to the register, the formal registration page, and that will bring up here. And you can go ahead and select the username, and how about we'll use 4x, and that name is already in use, so maybe add a few more x's there. Again, it really, you know, your individual username is up to you, and you go ahead and fill in your password, your email address. Now, the most difficult aspect of registration for the DailyFX forums will be figuring out these letters in the box here. Now, I'm a semi-intelligent person, but I have a very difficult time figuring out which letters and numbers to use. Now, there is a reason for this madness. It helps with security, but I would suggest just going ahead and keep on clicking that refresh image until something comes through that you can actually identify and see. Then you can go ahead and enter your birthday, but you can decide whether or not to display that to other forum members. And then also, if you were referred by somebody, you can enter that information there. The time zone, that should default to your computer, but you should, you know, double check and make sure. And then you can opt in, and I would, you know, suggest opting in for these emails in terms if the administrators want to go ahead and send you some notices about the forum, and then you would complete registration. Now what happens is they would send you an email to the email address that you put up here, and that email will include a link, and all you would have to do is go ahead and click on that link, and that link will bring you inside the forum, and you would now be a member of the DailyFX forums. Again, this is Matt Russell. Thanks for listening.